Thank you very much, Ms. Sabancı. Now I would like to welcome to the lectern IEA Executive Director, Dr. Fatih Birol, for the opening address.
Dear Mrs. Sabancı, dear Mr. Altun Yaldız, His Excellency Mr. Hasegawa, His Excellency Mr. Al-Nawedi, dear Johannes, dear ambassadors, dear colleagues, a very good morning to all of you. It's a great pleasure to come back to my beautiful city of Istanbul. What a wonderful weather. What a beautiful city. I was last week in Paris. I don't know if we have the French ambassador with us, but rainy all the day, all the week, non-stop. It is excellent to have the sun and the beautiful Istanbul here. I am very much looking forward to my summer holiday that I am going to spend again in this beautiful city as I did in the last almost 30 years. We will talk about Paris. We will talk about Paris climate change meeting and its implications. But before going to climate change, I hope this Sunday I will be in Paris. Turkey will get a very good news because we have a wonderful, very important opportunity to start good to the Euro 2016 football championship. So all the best to our football team as well. So in Paris again. So after this, some domestic remarks, I go to the global picture, the global energy system. How does it evolve? And what are the implications for different countries in the world? I will talk about the global issues because today we have many colleagues across the world here. We have colleagues from Japan, from Middle East, from Europe, from North America. But I can tell you that today, in today's world, no country is an energy island. What happens in Middle East or United States or in Japan will have implications for all of us. It can be change in the oil prices, it can be change in the coal markets, it can be improvement of a new technology. It will affect all of us. So therefore, I would like to focus here on the global picture. First, we are seeing today, in terms of oil, in terms of gas and coal, an exceptionally low price period. And I will discuss you in a minute whether or not these low prices will be with us longer or shorter, and what are the reasons behind that, and what are the implications. One of the very important implications of the low oil and gas prices is we are seeing investments for oil and gas are declining substantially. We have the executives of the oil companies here with us. We have the oil-producing countries' leaders. This is what we are seeing. Investments are declining significantly, and it will have implications for the future. Coal prices, rock bottom. Since 20 years, we have never seen coal prices so low, and as you will see, it is mainly driven by one country, what is happening in China. And I will come to that in a moment. And in terms of clean energy technologies, there is a revolution. Both in terms of their costs are going down, so-called expensive technologies are becoming now cheaper and competitive vis-à-vis the traditional fuels such as oil, coal, and gas. Renewables Mrs. Sabancı also mentioned, making a very strong push, and one important data which should shake all of us. It does shake me when we found out. Last year, of all the new power plants connected to the grid, 90% were renewables, mainly wind, followed by solar, hydropower, and geothermal. 10% gas plus coal plus oil plus nuclear put together, 10%, and renewables, 90%. COP21 was a very important milestone. It was an answer to a major global challenge. But it was a diplomatic answer. It was a successful diplomatic answer, so we have to see these 180 countries who signed this agreement, how are they going to do in the real life, how are they going to reach that very important target for all of us. So when we look at the global energy system, on one hand we see low oil, gas, and coal prices. On the other hand, renewables energy efficiency is moving, and there is an agreement which binds all the countries. And the important thing is to understand which one of these changes are structural, which one are just for today. So I'm going to try to explain these points. When we look at the global energy demand growth, energy demand will grow. We all need energy to have a more comfortable world, economies to grow, and today, ladies and gentlemen, there are still 1.2 billion people, 20% of the global population, they have no electricity. So therefore, energy is very important, and energy is the source of economy and source of our lives. When we look at the growth in the future, we expect from the so-called rich countries, advanced economies, their energy demand is slowing down, even declining, and all the growth is coming from emerging countries. In addition to the Southeast Asia, Africa, Middle East is growing, and China, of course, a major driver of global energy demand growth. Having said that, there is one country who is taking over from China to be the engine of global energy demand growth, which is India. India is moving to the center stage of global energy markets. Very strong economic growth, still more than 250 million people who have no access to electricity, and a major urbanization taking place in India. So our eyes, in terms of energy demand growth, needs to be focused more and more on Asia, but especially India and China. A few words about oil markets, which is important for all of us to follow the oil markets, oil prices, and others. What we see in the oil markets is that the investments, which is very important for the having a comfortable and secure oil markets, investment last year declined. The biggest drop, we have received the biggest drop last year, 2015. And after this, 2016, we have seen another decline. In the history of oil, we have never seen 2 years in a row investments are declining. If there was a decline 1 year, which was even rare, 1 year decline in investment, next year we saw a rebound. But 2 years in a row, investments are declining. And it may well be the case that we may see still weak investment in 2017. Where do we see the decline mainly? We see the decline mainly in North America, US and Canada. We see it in Brazil. We see it in Russia. And as a result of that, their production of growth, oil growth, will be negatively affected. My worry is, our worry as the International Energy Agency is, this lack of investment for new projects may be risky for the oil markets in the next few years to come, because not enough oil may be coming to markets when we desperately need them in a few years of time. Now, we have seen last January oil prices about $30. In the times of Davos, it was the discussion of what happened to oil prices in the global oil markets. I should say number one issue. Number two, number one is we have the US ambassador here. It was the US elections, number one discussion topic. But number two, as important as that, it was also the oil prices, $30. At that time, IEA said, this is not sustainable. And this may not be even a good news for the consumers. And we expected at that time, through 2017, a rebalancing of the market and prices to increase. And today, prices move from $30 in January to $52 as of today. Why it is happening? It is happening because we see a big drop in the production, especially from United States, Brazil, as well as a result of the unexpected events in, for example, Canada, big forest wildfires in Canada. In Nigeria, we have some security issues. In Venezuela, Venezuelan government has major difficulties to hold the production growth. So as a result of that, less oil comes to market, demand is still strong, and we expect that through 2017, markets continue to rebalance, and the production growth will be more and more stable. Markets will stabilize. We do not, however, expect that this price increase we have seen about $20 to $25 in the last 6 months will continue at the same pace. There is no reason to see a major jump in the oil prices, as the markets are very well supplied for the time being. Who will be the major growth centers? Which countries? US, again, when the prices go up, US production will come back. Iran, Iraq, other Gulf countries, Brazil, and maybe Russia. So in terms of oil markets, oil prices from $30 to $52, but a much bigger increase seems to be immediately not very likely. Coal, a very important fuel, not only because of itself, but coal is a competitor to natural gas and renewables and nuclear power and the others. Coal markets are going through a major change. And there is one reason for that. In fact, many reasons, one very important reason. What is happening in China? China alone, ladies and gentlemen, consumes about half of the global coal consumption. So what happens in China in coal affects everybody. And what happened in China in the last 2 years, after decades and decades of growth of coal growth, we have seen a decline. Why? Not necessarily because of climate change, but because Chinese government is taking the air pollution in the cities very seriously and put some cap there. While in China we see a flattening and maybe even a decline of coal consumption. India, coal consumption is growing strongly, followed by other countries. In the United States, another major coal consumer, coal consumption went down substantially because shale gas replaced coal, and it had two implications, at least. One, US emissions dropped substantially. It's good news for US and good news for everybody, in fact, because gas is cleaner than coal. And the second, many coal companies, major coal companies in the United States, faced and facing very difficult times in terms of their financial positions. So this is what we expect. The coal growth will be rather slow worldwide, and as a result, we are seeing, as I mentioned in the beginning, coal prices rather on the low side. There is still so much coal capacity in the markets, unutilized coal reserves. So therefore, our expectation is coal prices to remain low in the next few years to come. Today, it is about $50 per ton, and we expect this can be more or less a bit higher, a bit lower in the next years to come, which is much lower than what we have seen in the previous years. So low coal prices. Moving to natural gas. Just the day before yesterday in Brussels, I released our annual gas market report to the international press, and I wanted to share with you some of our findings here. Gas grew very strongly in the last 5-6 years, but we expect gas growth will slow down. It will still grow, but it will slow down. For two reasons. One, gas is squeezed between cheap coal, as I just mentioned, and renewables, which are becoming more cost-effective and enjoying, in many countries, generous support of the governments. So gas has to compete with vis-à-vis cheap coal, and the renewables becoming cheaper and also supported by governments. This is one reason. Second, the biggest part of the coal demand growth in the last 5 years came from the United States, as I said, gas replacing coal, and those substitution possibilities in the United States is more or less exhausted now. But still, a decent growth we expect driven by China, Middle East countries. But in terms of Europe, we have many colleagues from Europe here, we expect, even though European gas demand recovers, even 2021, European gas consumption will be lower than 2007, just before the financial crisis. It will not reach 2021 the level of pre-crisis in Europe. Now, this weaker demand, because there is an important message for, I think, Turkey and some other important countries and major gas exporting countries. A very important change, LNG markets, sea change. What we are seeing is that unlike the past, LNG markets, LNG capacity will grow substantially, and this growth will come from two countries, US and Australia. About 90% of the new LNG coming to market will come from these two countries, US and Australia. This is, in my view, an excellent news for the gas importing countries, such as Turkey, such as other European countries, such as Japan, such as Korea. This is very good news, and it's also good for the security of energy because new suppliers are coming to the market. US, as a result of shale gas, again, we have many US colleagues here, and Australia, coal-bed methane. We have the colleagues from Shell, a major investor in Australia, lots of LNG coming to market. So what does it mean? Demand is weaker and a lot of LNG coming to market. It means the following. It is a bad news for the major pipeline gas exporters, full stop. Some countries, some major pipeline gas exporting countries continued many years. They were in a denial that the shale gas revolution will have implications. This phase is over. C'est passé, it is finished. Shale gas is making major implications. And now, a concrete one, on the prices. What is the advantage of a lot of shale gas LNG coming to markets? For the European consumers, it is an excellent news. For Turkey, it is an excellent news. For Japan, Korea, excellent news, because there are new suppliers. Today, ladies and gentlemen, gas from United States can lend to Europe about $4 per MBTU. This will put a lot of pressure on the major gas pipeline exporters. This will make the hands of Europeans stronger in terms of their discussions when the contracts come in the picture. Turkey needs to make very good use of this historic opportunity. $4 you can get the US gas. So, of course, to do that, you have to have the infrastructure to get the LNG. And today, in my view, the European Commission is doing excellent work to provide the infrastructure, the Juncker plan, in order to provide flexibility for the European gas markets. It is a change in the European gas markets as of now, because the competition is coming in the European gas markets and beyond. Now, talking about the Teşekkürler. Now, talking about the gas, and let me move to renewables. Now, renewables, we have been always talking about renewables, the entire world. Renewables are good. They don't create problems for the environment. They are good because they are a homegrown energy, so you don't need to buy it from other countries. It is good for the economy. But, what was the problem with renewables? Expensive. Now, what is happening, ladies and gentlemen? Cost of renewables are coming down. In terms of, for example, onshore wind power, our analysis show that the cost of onshore wind globally in the last 7 years declined by 1/3. Solar, decline of the cost by 80%. United Arab Emirates is one of those countries who's pushing the solar very strongly despite having huge oil resources. And Mrs. Sabancı mentioned the efficiency. The efficient lighting, LED lighting, went down the cost substantially. So the cost of the renewable energies, efficiency equipments are going down and providing a major competition vis-à-vis gas, coal, and other sources. Coming to Paris. As I said, in Paris, a very important meeting. There is no country who is represented in this room, in this, I don't know, 500, 600 colleagues, whose government didn't sign to the Paris Agreement. The agreement was, let's keep the temperature increase maximum 2 degrees, and if possible, less than 2 degrees, go well below the 2 degrees. And Mr. Sabancı mentioned all the governments came with a so-called NDCs, which is their plan. They submit to the United Nations, they say, in 2030, I am going to reduce my emissions by X% by doing A, B, and C. Okay? But when we look at their programs, if you put all of them together, what they want to do, global temperature still increases at least 2.7 degrees Celsius. So we have two questions here. One, their target, government's target, if you put them together, it is still much higher than what the goal is. Second, we have many government representatives here, but second, governments set that target, but setting the target is something, to reach that target is something else. So therefore, as International Energy Agency, as we were asked in the Paris meeting, we are following closely what is happening in the markets and what needs to be developed in order to reach that target. To reach that target, we have many options. Each country can reach that target by using different options. But there are two of them which applies almost all the countries around the world. Namely, energy efficiency and renewable energies. But of course, nuclear power as a carbon-free source can help. Switching from coal to gas can help. Using efficient coal power plants can help. And this would help and bring the emissions to 2 degrees level. But once again, Paris was an extremely important diplomatic answer to the very important challenge we have. But now that answer needs to be, that agreement needs to be implemented in the energy sector. Hence, we have this meeting here, and I wanted to congratulate Mrs. Sabancı bringing so many participants across the world and across the Turkish energy sector to discuss this very important issue. So what we did, ladies and gentlemen, we believe the governments that they are going to reach their targets, of course, but we said we have to look in terms of clean technologies, what they said and what they do. Is there a decalage? Is there a discrepancy between those two? Of course, we believe the governments, but trust is good, but the control is better. So we thought we should check what is happening. We have a rather pessimistic picture when we look at, for example, carbon capture and storage. We track the progress. Progress is very, very sluggish. In terms of coal plants which are built, a substantial amount of them are still subcritical, inefficient coal-fired power plants. Very primitive, not good news. There are some other technologies which are doing a bit better. What are those? For example, energy storage, nuclear power. Last year, 10 new nuclear power plants connected to grid, 8 of them being in China, 1 in Korea, 1 in Russia, and Japan, slowly but surely, going back to nuclear power. But we cannot talk about a major renaissance of nuclear in the picture. The good news is coming from two areas. Green. Electric cars. Last year, electric car sales across the world the increase was more than 70%. We now reach the worldwide 1 million electric cars in the street mark. 1 million may sound a lot, but not to make you too pessimistic about that, but it is less than 0.1% of the global car fleet. But there's a still big move in terms of electric cars. Another good news came from the wind and solar power. There's a huge increase there, as was discussed before. But overall, we are lagging behind the target which was established in Paris in terms of the clean energy technologies. So, ladies and gentlemen, let me finish my words by trying to highlight 3-4 points and leave you with that. We have lower oil prices, major increase, $25 in the last 6 months, and we can expect that these price levels may be with us for some time to come. And in terms of gas and coal, however, we expect there will be pressure on the gas and coal prices globally for a few years to come. When we look at the projects coming in the picture and the level of demand. But a worry is, in terms of oil and gas, investments are not taking place, which may be an important issue in a few years of time. COP21, Paris, a historic meeting. It pushed the clean energy technologies. Governments made agreement. But once again, being a rather skeptical person, excellent move, excellent decision, but we need to look at the implementation of that, and there's a lot of things to do for governments and for the energy industry. We have seen major progress in several technologies, but most of the technologies are lagging behind. Solar PV, cost declined substantially. Wind, very good news. Electric cars, very good news. But carbon capture and storage, biofuels, they are still lagging behind. Overall, we are not doing well, to be honest with you. We have to accelerate our progress towards clean energy technologies. Now, I started with saying that no country is an energy island. We all can and need to learn from each other. The international collaboration on energy has never been so vital. And the IEA, if I may say a few words on the IEA, we have started, as Mrs. Sabancı said, with a new program to embrace this role given to us. And there are 3 elements of that, this new role of the IEA. We call it the modernization of the IEA. Number 1, our member countries as of now are the US, Canada, all European countries, Japan, Korea, Australia, New Zealand. We have been, after 40 years, first time, we are opening our doors to emerging countries. Within the last 9 months, Mexico decided to be a member of the IEA. China became an associate member of the IEA. Indonesia became an associate member of the IEA. Thailand and others we are negotiating. So we are opening the doors of the IEA to emerging countries. We want to be a truly international energy agency, not only the, as they say, rich man's energy club. This is number 1. Number 2, we have been known to look after the oil security. All countries have stocks, our countries, in case of an emergency. We have been making a lot of efforts. When there's a Katrina event in the United States, markets were tight, we brought oil to the markets to comfort the markets. During the first and second Gulf War, there was a problem in the markets, we put oil to the markets. And now, we have a new mandate, in addition to oil security, which is the gas security. We are looking after gas security as it was given to us by our ministers, and also during the very successful G7 meeting organized by Japan, by G7 leaders, it was given to us, look after the gas security. This is number 2. And number 3, and the last one, we have the pole position across the world in terms of traditional energy technologies. Now, it is time for the IEA to be a clean energy hub. We are putting a lot of emphasis on energy efficiency, becoming an international central bank of energy efficiency, as well as other renewable and other clean energy technologies. This is the modernization of the IEA to embrace the changes in the global energy system now. Once again, thank you, and thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.